Hello everyone, we are reading chapter number 4 of our textbook Vistas for class 12th English. The name of the chapter is The Enemy, and we have read this chapter in the previous video till page number 30, second last paragraph. In this paragraph, up to this paragraph, we came to know that Hannah and Dr. Sadao gave shelter to POW after a lot of curiosity, confusion, but finally they sheltered him. And when they informed about this to the servants, they faced a lot of problem in that, and they are in trouble, they are in tension, and they reasoned that why to treat this man, because this man was destined to die. Firstly, he had been wounded by a gunshot, and secondly, the rocks of the sea wounded him. So in other words, they wanted to say the gun and the sea would seek revenge from them. They would treat them as enemies. So here the gun represents the Japanese army and the sea represents the country of Japan, right? So if they treated the enemy, they would be punished by Japan and the the country, by the army of Japan or police of Japan, something like that. Next, we have to start today with last paragraph of page number 30. So please open your book on page number 30. I will tell him what you say, Hannah replied curtly, but she herself was also frightened, although she was not superstitious as the old man was. Now, the word curtly means what? That means politely, right? So Hannah here politely said to the gardener, when he just responded like that, the sea and the gun would seek the revenge from them. So Hannah answered to the gardener politely that she would pass this message to Dr. Sadao, and she was frightened, though not superstitious like the old man. Could it ever be well to help an enemy? Nevertheless, she told Yumi to fetch the hot water and bring it to the room where the white man was. So finally, she asked Yumi to get the hot water into the room where the injured man was kept. Okay, and who was the Yumi? Yumi was the servant. She went ahead and slid back the partitions, that is the door actually, the slider door you can say. Sadao was not yet there. Yumi followed, put down her wooden bucket, then she went over the white man. When she saw him, her thick lips folded themselves into stubbornness. I have never washed a white man, she said, and I will not wash so dirty a one now. Now, this word, underline this word stubbornness. Stubbornness means when the firm determination, जिद, okay, जिद्दी जो लोग होते हैं उनको stubborn कहते हैं. So Hannah went inside first in the room, right? She opened the partitions or the sliders. So Sadao was not there in the room, and Yumi followed the room. Yumi followed Hannah to the room where the man was kept. Right, she picked a wooden bucket also, and when she reached there in the room, she put that bucket on the floor. Right, so as she saw the white man, her thick lips folded, and there was an expression actually on that her face indicated her determination, and she was actually in curiosity, in confusion that what to do, why they sheltered this man there. So she said firmly that she had never washed an American man, and she would never wash one who was so dirty as he was injured too. Now Hannah cried at her severely. Okay, you will do what your master commands you. There was so fierce a look of resistance upon Yumi's round dull face that Hannah felt unreasonably afraid. After all, if the servants should report something that was not as it happened? Very well, she said with dignity. You understand only want to bring him to his sense so that we can turn him over as a prisoner. I will have nothing to do with it, Yumi said. I am a poor person and it is not my business. Then please, Hana said gently, return to your work. So here, when Hana reacted to, the refusal of, you can say, Yumi, and she screamed at her, she cried at her that she was supposed to follow her master's order here. So at this, the resistance is what? Resistance is the refusal. So Yumi resisted strongly, and her dull face had a dangerous look of protest, which scared Hana also, and she was worried that if the servants reported something different from what had happened, they could land into trouble. So that's why Hana changed her expression to respect and said, very well. Dignity means what? Dignity means respect. Okay. So she got annoyed, but she changed her expression and she said, very well. Okay. She explained to Yumi that they intended to bring the unconscious man into his senses and they would hand him over as a prisoner. So at this, Yumi said that she was not concerned about their plans, and she added that she was a poor person and it was none of their business to know about her or about their plans. So at this, then please, Hana said gently, return to your work. So when she said that that is not one of our business and something like that. So at this, Hana said to Yumi, then you should return back to your work. Now next. At once, Yumi left the room, but this left Hana with the white man alone. She might have been too afraid to stay, had not her anger at Yumi's stubbornness now sustained her. So sustained means what? Sustained means continued. Okay. Now Hana was again left alone when Yumi went from there. Yumi left the room as Hana said her to go. So she left the room immediately, and Hana was again left alone with the white man, and she would have been afraid to remain there, because she was in anger also on Yumi's determination, on her stubbornness, right? But that stubbornness, or that you can say that afraid to remain there alone, but the anger on Yumi, right? That made her stay in the room, right? Stupid Yumi, she muttered fiercely. Now, it is anything but a man, and a wounded helpless man. So when Hana was there alone in the room, so she was afraid actually, but Hana said with anger because she was angry with Yumi because she denied to wash the POW. So Hana said with anger that Yumi was a stupid person. She said it was just an injured man, but she herself was afraid of the man. In the conviction of her own superiority, she went impulsively and untied the knotty drugs that kept the white man covered. When she had his breast bare, she dipped the small clean towel that Yumi had brought into the steaming hot water and washed his face carefully. The man's skin, though rough with exposure, was a fine texture and must have been very blonde even when he was child. So conviction here means what? That conviction means firm belief. Okay. And one more word is there, impulsively. So that impulsively means what? Impulsively means to do something suddenly without thinking. And rugs means what? Rugs means what? Rugs is here. So rugs is what? That is of light color or the blanket blonde, but here knotted drugs are the clothes which he was wearing because they were torn actually, right? The uniform which he was wearing. So Hana was so full of anger at the refusal by Yumi, and that without thinking she opened the blanket in which the man was there, right, he was injured. So, his chest was bare, or here you can say the uniform, right, that was not blanket actually, but that rug is what? Rug means here the means that the clothes which were torn. So, he just opened that, right, and when she took the handkerchief or the small clean towel which was dipped in the steaming hot water and washed the face of the man. And the man's skin was rough due to being exposed to sun for many days, but it had a good texture, and he must have been a very fair when he was a child. So, on the next page, first paragraph, while she was thinking these thoughts, though not really liking the man better now that he was no longer a child, she kept on washing him until his upper body was quite clean. But she dared not to turn him over. Where was Sadao? Now her anger was ebbing, and she was anxious again, and she rose, wiping her hands on the wrong towel. Then, lest the man be chilled, she put the quilt over him. So, here in this paragraph, please underline some words. One is ebbing. So, ebbing means decreasing, continuously or gradually. And rose is what? It is not the flower, but it is the second form of rise, right? That means to stand up. So, here this rose means to stood up. And chilled, that was freezed due to cold weather, right? So, Hannah kept on cleaning the man's upper body, as she had these thoughts also. She did not like the man, as he was not a child anymore, and she did not have the courage to turn him over and thought of Sadao suddenly. And her anger was decreasing, and she started becoming restless, right? She is an intention also. So, her anger was decreasing, and she started becoming restless. She stood up and wiped her hands with the wrong towel, and she did not want the man to freeze to the cold weather. She put the quilt on him. Sadao, she called softly. He had been about to come in when she called. His hand had been on the door, and now he opened it. She saw that he had brought his surgeon's emergency bag, and that he wore his surgeon's coat also. So, because she was afraid, she just she was becoming restless. So, she was searching for Sadao, and as soon as she called out softly for Sadao, he had been on the door when she called him, and he immediately opened the door, and Hannah saw that time that Sadao was carrying his coat, that emergency, that surgeon coat, and some emergency bag also, surgeon's emergency bag, to be because he has to got the operation done of that POW, and he was prepared to operate on the injured man. So, you have decided to operate, she cried. Yes, he said shortly. He turned his back to her and unfolded a sterilized towel upon the floor of the Chakemana alcove and put his instrument out upon it. So, here Hannah asked Sadao when she saw him that he is ready to operate on this man. So, she asked Sadao that had he decided to operate the man. So, Sadao replied that yes, of course, he will operate on him. So, he turned his back to Hannah, as he did not want her to object to his decision, and he started to do his work. He opened a sterilized towel, right? This sterilized means what? Sterilized means disinfected. And he opened that sterilized towel on the floor on the Chakemana alcove and placed his surgical instrument on it. So, what is the meaning of this Chakemana alcove? Let us understand. Chakemana alcove. So, this Toko means what? This means floor. Toko means what? Floor. Okay. And this Ma means space. So, it is something which which is having a display of flower arrangement or something, a towel type of something, a cloth, right, or piece of art. So he just put that, he just spread that on the floor, and he put his sterilized towel over there on that takamana, and he just put his instruments upon it. Fetch towels, he said. So fetch means what? Fetch means to bring. So he ordered his wife that bring some towels. She went obediently, but how anxious now, to the linen shelves and took out towels. There ought also to be old pieces of matting, so that the blood would not ruin the fine floor covering. She went out to the back veranda, where the gardener kept strips of the matting with which to protect delicate shrubs on the cold nights, and took an armful of them. So when Dr. Sadao asked Hannah to get some towels, she went obediently, and she is not anxious now. She went to the shelves. Linen shelves means the shelf or the place where they keep the towels and the other clothes, so that, and took out the towels from there. And they also ought to got some pieces of matting, so that the blood would not ruin the floor, right? Because in the starting we came to know, when the man was kept, that the room was actually, in the room where he was put, that was the room of the Sadao's father, and that was adorned with the beautiful art of Japan. Whatever was there, the mats, the beds, whatever the furniture was there, that was completely in Japanese style. So too expensive was that also. So they wanted that that matting and the floor would not ruin. So she went out to back of the veranda, where the gardener kept some pieces of mats, right? And these pieces of the mats were actually the the mats which their gardener used to protect the shelves, right? It is something that green in it type of mattings. So that she brought handful of them, means she got some of the pieces, some of the strips from there. But when she went back into the room, she saw that this was useless. The blood had already soaked through the packing in the man's wound and had ruined the mat under him. But when by the time Hannah reached to the room, she saw that the blood had flowed through the bandage on the man's wound. It was not bandage actually, it was that moss, right, which Dr. Sadao used as first aid at the beach, right? The sea moss was there. So that had actually, when that bandage or that moss was took out, so that stained was on the mat was completely completely destroyed the mat. So her efforts were futile actually, in a way. "Oh, mat," she cried. "Yes, it ruined," Sadao replied, as though he did not care. "But help me to turn him," he commanded her. So here she obeyed him without a word, and again began to wash the man carefully. So here, when she saw the stains on the mat, she cried, and she said, "Oh, the mat had been spoiled." So Sadao agreed that yes, the mat had been spoiled in such a manner which indicated that he was not bothered by it, right? Right now he is bothered about the patient only, but he was not bothered about the mat. So Sadao ordered Hannah to help him to turn the man over, and she obeyed like a very innocent child. She did not just ask any question from the husband. And then Sadao started washing his back. Whose back? We are talking about the back of POW. "Yumi would not wash him," she said. "Did you wash him then?" Sadao asked, not stopping for a moment his swift, concise movement. Okay, now when he is cleaning, when Sadao was starting washing the back of the man, at that time Hannah told Sadao that Yumi had refused to wash the injured man. So then Sadao asked her that if she washed him. So he didn't stop the cleaning of him, and he made the fast small movements of his hands, and he cleaned him carefully. "Yes," she said. He did not seem to hear her, but she was she was used to his absorption when he was at work. So Sadao was engrossed actually in the work, and it seemed that he is not listening, he is not hearing to Hannah, and Hannah wondered that Sadao was not bothered at all, and he is actually right now he is in tension, he is in he is bothering about that injured man only. So this is enough for today till page number 32. I hope so we have done. So please make the notes of this chapter up to here, page number 32, and in the next video we will read the chapter from page number 33. Thank you very much.